She banged on our front door so hard that even the frames shook, yelling, "Open up right now or I'll have you arrested." My wife was inside, folding baby clothes quietly, and she didn't answer. That silence drove Karen insane. Within minutes, she was on the phone, shouting into the speaker, "Yes, officer. There's a suspicious woman here who refuses to cooperate. Send units immediately." I stood at the window, watching her pace like she owned the block, arms crossed, eyes darting at every neighbor as if she was running some investigation. When the patrol cars rolled up, red and blue lights flashing across our lawn, Karen smirked like she had just won. She pointed at our house with her sharp nails and screamed, "That woman is trespassing. She refuses to leave." The officers looked confused, because from where they stood, it was obvious this was our property, our front yard, our name on the mailbox. Yet Karen insisted, waving a fake HOA pamphlet, "I'm the head of the board here, and she doesn't belong in this neighborhood." One of the cops walked up to the porch, knocking firmly. "Ma'am, please open the door." Karen whispered loud enough for the whole street to hear. "She won't. She's hiding something, I know it." And for a moment I wondered if my wife would finally step out and end this circus. But she stayed calm inside, not moving an inch. That's when Karen raised her voice again. "If she doesn't come out, I'll make sure she's dragged out. Nobody ignores me." I clenched my jaw, because I knew something. Karen didn't. The silence behind that door wasn't weakness. It wasn't fear. It was power, real power. And in just a moment, when my wife decided to reveal herself, Karen's little empire was going to collapse in front of the entire neighborhood. Funny thing about silence, I muttered under my breath, watching Karen gloat at the cops. Sometimes it's just the sound of someone waiting for the right time to strike. The officers shifted uneasily on the porch, exchanging looks. One of them knocked again, this time with more authority. Karen folded her arms and laughed under her breath. "See? She's scared. That's why she won't open the door. Arrest her already." Her voice carried across the street, making the neighbors peek through curtains and stand on their lawns. She loved the attention, loved being the center of it. But then the door creaked open just a few inches. My wife stepped out, calm as ever, her badge glinting faintly on her belt. The air shifted instantly. Karen froze mid-smirk, her eyes darting down to the unmistakable symbol of authority hanging at my wife's side. One of the cops blinked hard and straightened up, recognizing it. "Chief?" he whispered, almost tripping over his own words. Karen's grin vanished. "What? What are you talking about? She's no chief. She doesn't even belong here," she snapped, waving her fake HOA notice like it meant something. But my wife's voice was steady, sharp, and commanding. "Stand back, ma'am. And put that paper down now." Her tone carried the weight of years in command, and for the first time Karen looked unsure of herself. The crowd of neighbors leaned closer, their whispers buzzing. The officers who just moments ago had been ready to knock the door down now stood at attention, their respect obvious. "Chief, do you want us to proceed?" one asked carefully. Karen's face twisted, red with anger and embarrassment. "No, no, no. This is all wrong. She's making this up. I'm the one in charge here. This is my neighborhood." She jabbed a finger toward my wife, her voice cracking. But with every word, she sounded less like a leader and more like a desperate woman caught in her own trap. I couldn't help but smile. "Karen," I said loud enough for the neighbors to hear, "you just called the cops. On the cops." The gasps that rippled through the street made her stumble back a step. My wife's eyes locked on her, cold and unflinching, and in that moment, it was clear. Karen had no idea what storm she had just unleashed. Karen's face burned red as the neighbors started whispering louder. She couldn't stand being humiliated, not in front of an audience. She raised her voice, trembling with rage. "This is fake." "You're all falling for her little act. She's pretending to be something she's not." She shoved the fake HOA notice into one of the officer's hands. "Read it. It says right here she can't live here." The officer glanced at the paper, then back at my wife. His jaw tightened. "Ma'am, this isn't even official. It doesn't have a seal, no signatures. This is a printout from the internet." A small laugh broke out from one of the neighbors across the street, and that laugh spread like fire. Karen whipped around, screaming, "Shut up! All of you, shut up!" But my wife didn't even flinch. She pulled a folded document from her pocket and handed it to the other officer. "Here's the deed to this house. My name is right there in black and white." The officer studied it carefully, then nodded. "Yes, Chief, all valid." Karen's eyes went wide. Deed? She shouted, pointing at me. You told me you were renting. You said. She stopped herself, realizing she had just admitted snooping into our lives, maybe even breaking privacy laws. The crowd reacted instantly with shocked murmurs. I stepped closer, keeping my voice low but firm. Karen, you've been digging into things that were never your business. And now you've crossed into filing false reports. My wife's eyes narrowed. Which is a crime. Karen staggered back, gripping her fake notice like a shield. You can't do this to me. I'm the head of this neighborhood. Everyone answers to me. But then one of the neighbors yelled from the crowd, "No, Karen, we're sick of you. You're not in charge of anything. You just harass people." More voices joined in. And suddenly the crowd wasn't whispering anymore, they were shouting, calling her out, exposing her lies right to her face. Karen's perfect little empire was cracking. And for the first time, she looked terrified. She turned back toward the cops, desperate. "Arrest them, please. They're turning everyone against me." But the officers didn't move. They were waiting on one command. My wife's command. Karen's desperation boiled over. She lunged forward, snatching the deed straight out of the officer's hand and tearing it in half. The sound ripped through the air like a gunshot. Gasps spread through the crowd. Neighbors pulling out their phones, recording every second. "See?" she screamed, holding the torn papers above her head. "It's worthless. She made it up. None of this is real." That was the moment my wife stepped forward, calm but sharp as steel. "You just destroyed a legal document in front of witnesses and on camera." Her voice didn't rise, but the weight behind it made even the officers stiffen. Karen's mouth opened, but nothing came out. She looked around, hoping anyone would back her up. But the neighbors only held their phones higher, capturing her downfall. "Ma'am," the officer said firmly, moving in. "You're under arrest for filing a false police report, harassment, and tampering with legal documents." He reached for his cuffs. Karen thrashed, screaming, "No, no, you can't. I run this street. You'll regret this." She twisted and fought, but when the cuffs clicked around her wrists, her cries turned into shrill wails that echoed through the whole neighborhood. The same neighbors she once bullied now recorded her shame with satisfaction in their eyes. I stepped closer, locking eyes with her one last time. "You wanted everyone to see you as the queen of this block. Well, now they'll remember you as the woman who called the cops on the police chief." The crowd roared with laughter, and even one of the officers cracked a smile. Karen was shoved into the back of the patrol car, still kicking, still shouting, but powerless. My wife stood tall, the flashing lights washing over her face, the symbol of real authority in a place where Karen had faked it for years. As the car pulled away, the neighbors clapped and cheered, their voices blending into one powerful sound. I glanced at my wife, and for a moment all the chaos faded. She put her hand on my shoulder and said softly, "This is our home. No one's ever going to take that from us." And right there in the middle of the street, with the whole neighborhood watching, I realized something simple but powerful. Freedom isn't about how loud someone can scream. It's about who actually stands for the truth.